Hi, I'm Tracey Soltis.
And I'm Kali Alfaro. And you're listening to the Mind Body Studio, a place for anyone who wants to reach their full potential, thrive, and create a life filled with vitality.
Each week, we'll bring you our expertise, giggles, and a splash of quirky to explore real and relevant topics to help you along your life's journey.
We'll bring you science, psychology, and practicality to real life issues.
So, thanks for listening. We know you're going to love it. All right. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm actually feeling really good. I feel really energized today, actually, although there is some really weird energy in the universe at the moment.
There is a little bit of weird energy.
Yeah, I can really feel it. But at the same time, I'm actually feeling really good. And yeah, I've had a really great week, actually, and looking forward to this week and see what challenges are going to show their little faces for us moving forward.
So welcome to our listeners. We are going to talk today about how to expand your mind, expanding your awareness, expanding your perception of life. So we're moving a little bit away from all the practical stuff that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. And on this beautiful rainy morning, we just thought that we wanted to expand our own minds. So we wanted to share that with everyone.
Yeah, because we were having quite an interesting chat before we started recording. And I think it's really important for us to jump off this idea of autopilot and pause for a moment and be present and take in the world and the universe around us and see what that actually means and what that looks like. Because I think that the majority of us do work on autopilot all the time. I know that we've talked about that in our episodes before. I mean, what is autopilot? I mean, I guess it's keeping to a really set and vigorous routine, isn't it? It's like getting up at a certain time, going to work, doing this, make sure you have this ready, doing the social events. And then you get to the end of the afternoon and you're running home, cook dinner, get the kids sorted, go to bed and do it all the next day. But when we do have time to ourselves, usually because we're so busy, we're winding down with other external things, you know, reality TV shows and I guess just noise and social media, that we're not actually expanding ourselves on our own journey as a human. And so I think that in itself is important to take pause and to see what that actually looks like.
Absolutely. And I think, Trace, one of the things about being on autopilot is that people are mindless, right? You're doing stuff mindlessly.
Yeah.
You know, you're driving home the same way, you're kind of, you know, listening to the same stuff. And the trouble with this, like, I want people to expand. I'm going to use the word expand like a lot today. I want people to expand their vision of what goes on in their brain, because when you're on autopilot, you're thinking the same things, you're feeling the same things, you're kind of talking to the same people, you're doing the same kind of stuff. It's sort of like Groundhog Day.
And are you living?
Not really. Well, you are. You are. I mean, living on some kind of, you know.
You're breathing.
Yeah,
that's
totally
true. Like you're alive.
And we're going to talk about breathing because I found something really interesting.
But you aren't really making your own decisions.
No, you're not. You're just like a bit of a zombie. So we want to like snap you guys out of it, like snap out of it and expand your awareness. So one of the things that's really beautiful about this is when we expand our consciousness or our awareness, or we challenge our ideas of life, we activate different parts of the brain. Now, I talk about activating different parts of the brain quite often, and it's so incredibly important for longevity and brain health and just global wellness. So you want to expand your mind with different concepts. So I was talking to Tracey earlier on about me doing a little bit of research. So most of our listeners know that I do crazy sunrise ocean swims most mornings.
And she's still going out, by the way. And it's July. It's like 5 degrees out there in the morning, and she's still going.
It was amazing.
And I think she's actually you've given up on texting me in the morning, right?
Oh yeah, no worries. I'm just there. I'm just going. You're asleep.
Yeah, no, I'm not getting up.
So this fascination with the ocean that I have lovingly developed in the last few months, going into a year now, is really beautiful because it has allowed me to meet people that snorkel and free dive and I've started interviewing people for my next book. And I interviewed this marine biologist the other day who specializes in sharks. And something really interesting. I was fascinated by the entire interview, but I wanted to understand our relationship with the animal world and with different parts of the environment on a more sort of professional level. I wanted them to educate me a little bit. So
because, like in the ocean, that's a whole world. Like we can't even get in there to really explore.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
It really is. And one of the things that just blew my mind, like expanded my consciousness, was I learned that some sharks have intrauterine cannibalism.
I know. That scares me.
Insane.
Isn't it?
Like,
can you imagine? Oh, I'm alive. Oh, no, my brother's eating me.
Talk about sibling rivalry, like taken to the next level. So think about this. There's let's say there's 5 little baby sharks inside the uterus, and, the strongest one starts to eat the other ones. So by the time the shark is born, it's like a beast. It's like a machine, right? I don't want to promote the idea that all sharks are like these murderous machines, because they are not. I learned so much about shark behavior, and they are just the most beautiful, respectable animals. But I found this fact fascinating. And then I went on to do a little bit more research on it because I was so blown away. I'd never heard about this before, and I felt a little bit ignorant that I'd never heard about it. Anyway, that inspired me to do so much more shark research. And what I really want to drive home today is the importance of feeling inspired. So when we do something new, and I know Tracey is a bit of a geek, and her downtime she spends time researching science articles and whatnot.
Yeah, that's my thing. I love
totally
it.
Respect that.
I while other people are eating chocolate and watching reality TV,
Exactly.
I'm Googling stuff about quantum. And
so what this does is when we expand our knowledge, it allows us to recruit different parts of the brain. When you feel inspired by something, you have a greater perception of life that allows us to kind of connect to a bigger web, right? And when you do that, not only are you recruiting different parts of the brain, but it gives you an understanding that our role in life is so much bigger, and we can step out of that idea of being stuck in our heads with our problems, with our Groundhog Day.
Yeah, it's really interesting because if we look at what we are as humans, what are we? For starters, we're a vessel, we're a physical body, we know that. And I spend a lot of my time helping people get the best out of their physical body as possible so that they can keep their mind really healthy. So, we're not just the physical, we're also the mind, but then we have this amazing asset of the consciousness that we just don't give the time to. It's so underused because out of all of the species that are on this planet, humans are the only ones that have a conscious mind. We are the only ones, that we know of, obviously, that are in full control or can be in full control of their reality and their outcomes. But we spend a lot of time in autopilot, and not a lot of people switch off from autopilot and actually absorb that energy and that understanding that as a conscious mind, you can create any reality that you want, absolutely anything. But you've got to actually start thinking and expand your mind about what that looks like. And I think that's scary for some people because it's a very overwhelming ability to have.
So much out there, right?
Yeah, because when you really do start pulling off the layers, and if you go to yourself, okay, well, I'm just going to I'm going to stop with the work and the family stuff and the social stuff and all of those external factors that keep us occupied, and we go in towards ourselves, it can be really overwhelming to realize that you can do or be or have or know anything that you want to know. And that in itself can be one of the most overwhelming abilities, I think, that you can possibly realize. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. And I think what I want our listeners to sort of like think about is when we can challenge our perspectives, and in a time like we're living through right now, we're in the middle of a pandemic here in Perth. We had a little snap lockdown. It instigates fear. It, rattles our routines. It does all sorts of things. This is a time to inspire yourself. This is a time to expand your view on life. And when you learn something new, when you activate different parts of your consciousness, you are allowing yourself to see so many more colors of the rainbow. We get stuck on one color, which is our own experience, and we get stuck on the stress and the mundaneness of it. And when we begin to think about bigger things, you begin to kind of have like a more global, more universal understanding of the world, and you don't take yourself so seriously anymore. Yeah. I came across like these cool little things as part of my ocean research. They're like little sea slugs, and I know that for most of you, and that probably sounds really disgusting, but I think they're called nudibranch. Tiny, tiny little sea slugs that have the most beautiful colors. And so I started researching them, right? And I bought myself this really cool underwater camera, and I'm really keen to head out there. And you begin to like activate this idea of, oh my gosh, there are so many things out there that are so exciting. And today when we're being bombarded with so much negativity,
oh my gosh,
so many fear, like fear mongering,
it's fear,
right?
It's constantly this drive of fear, and it just oppresses people.
We need to see other aspects of life. We need to look that there are a million different colors in the rainbow, and when we're being brainwashed with fear all the time, and when we are being pressured by our routines and our schedules,
it stops people from living.
Totally.
Like this whole mentality around just being absorbed by one avenue of thought and not seeing all of the billion other paths that can be taken. It's really hard to sit back sometimes and feel this energy from the universe. Wouldn't you agree with that? I mean, absolutely. I know that that's been quite I would say a triggering thing for me this week. I have definitely been triggered because I feel as though there's just so much one way, one directional, perspectives on things. And I worry about people who are just living a life of fear all the time. I mean, they're not living their life. I want people to live their lives and to be on their own journey and to look at different perspectives and different points of view. And when we're just getting ourselves absorbed in fear, I mean, we know we weren't going to talk about anything practical, but biologically, I mean, straight away, we're going into a fear response. We're creating negative reactions in the body, where digestion and mindset and everything becomes affected. And that's just a vicious cycle, because once that starts, it just perpetuates out of control. And before you know it, it's oozing out into everywhere else. And that's what I'm picking up at the moment. And that's what I meant at the beginning, where the universe has been really full on this week in the way that the energy has been shifting around. And I feel as though what I really want people to take from this is that pausing in times of trauma or being uncomfortable with something that you're fearful with is okay, as long as you take that pausing moment and assess what the reality is and what the situation itself really is, and getting a few different ideas on different perspectives rather than just focusing on one particular area and getting caught up on that.
And I think that's such an important point, Tracey, because nowadays everyone is so opinionated, but not many people take the time to really educate themselves on their opinions.
Yeah.
And I think education has kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit, and I really want to encourage our listeners, find a topic that you might be slightly interested in and start reading about it, start educating yourself about it, because then you can come to the table with a different idea, challenge your ideas, challenge your belief systems. Where do they come from? Why am I holding them? What are these belief systems even good for me, right?
Yep.
Like it's so important to sort of take stock and understand why we're functioning the way that we are, because I want people to change their perception of life and expand it. And when you begin to expand it, you begin to feel that sense of inspiration. You move away from that stress survival mechanism and you begin to feel that sense of inspiration and awe.
Yeah.
And that allows you to access those higher levels of consciousness.
It does, but it's a really tricky one because it has to start at the very basic level, which means we have to clean the physical body that we're in. Because if there's so much debris and rubbish and we're filling it full of pollutants and toxins, it's impossible to expect someone to go from a low vibration to a high vibration without doing a clean up first, right? Because all of that's exactly where our conscious mind in the brain is connected to the source, if you like to call it the source, the field, whatever it is that you resonates with you. If we don't have clean brains, clean, healthy, really well-functioning brains, which means clean diets, clean mindsets, all of those things need to be, shifted. And if we don't have that, it's very difficult for us to even understand, I guess, what we're talking about, because we have to go from a low vibrating frequency to a higher vibrating frequency. Because if we do that, if we make that shift, then we're more open, our hearts are more open to different ideas. We're able to take on different perspectives in a really
talk about that. How do you
loving,
open your heart?
Caring way. Well, you have to.
How do you open your heart?
You have to be, I think, well, it's multifaceted. I think that's multifaceted, that whole idea. It's not just, okay, I've got today I'm going to have an open heart. Here we go, an open heart. It doesn't really work that way. I think that we have to come from a place of love and a place of kindness and a place where we understand that every single person is exactly the same as us. We are equal. We are equal in everything. We come from the same place. We return to the same place.
So would you say, I really love where this is going, by the way, but would you say that love and kindness to ourselves as well as towards others and this magnificent, beautiful earth that we are on, allows us, is sort of like the gateway to expansion?
Yeah, because I think once you're giving yourself love and you're nurturing yourself, you're showing yourself that it's the right thing to do to look after yourself, and you do that and you follow that through, you're more likely to then love others and show them kindness and then expand yourself, open your mind, open your perspectives. Even if you don't agree with anything that the other person's saying, you don't have to agree with what someone else is saying, but it's all just information. I mean, you might be listening to this discussion today and go, I don't get what these girls are like, what are they talking about? I don't get any of it. And that's okay, because it's just information and you take what resonates with you and what doesn't. That's fine. But be open to different perspectives. Be open to the other ideas and values that people hold as well, because from that you learn on your own journey. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it, but it gives you an opportunity to learn. And we know that knowledge is power. I love that. Knowledge is power. We don't have to agree with everything. We just don't. But the more that we know and the more that we're open to receiving, the more knowledge we have that we can take with us on our journey down the road.
Yeah. And so if we think about the fact that love allows us to feel more open and openness allows us to expand our minds, our views of the world, and our sense of connectedness and our sense of love, I want people to think about that. So just think about it for a moment. Self-love can actually be a very practical thing. It can incorporate lots of beautiful self-caring activities like eating well and exercising and sleeping, and really positive and loving self-talk, encouraging yourself. And that allows you to resonate and vibrate at that frequency of love. So I want people to think about the fact that you have a responsibility. When you walk into a room, you are changing the frequency of that room. I want you to expand your understanding and your determination to know that you are going to be the person that's going to be the most influential when you walk into a room.
Yeah.
What kind of frequency do I want to bring here? What kind of love and openness do I want to bring to this space and share with these people?
Yeah.
Because the more love and the more openness and the more responsibility we take for, that frequency that we're bringing, the more connected we are, but the more mindful. You're snapping out of that Groundhog Day. You're snapping out of our autopilot and you're expanding your abilities. Sort of like, okay, I know that I'm walking into a negative workplace. I'm going to do my little happy dance. I'm going to have my coffee and I'm going to walk in and I'm just going to contaminate this place with amazing vibes.
Yeah, totally. I mean, because we know that we all have our own little electromagnetic field around us, right? And you feel that the moment that you feel someone who walks into a room and is vibrating on a really low scale, or you can feel their energy. You know what I mean, right? You can feel it. You can feel when someone's field is not right. It's not vibrating the way it's supposed to. And you don't go towards that person. You actually remove yourself from that person. And it might not be actually a conscious event where you go, oh, I actually feel this field is low, I'm going to move away. It's not actually that. Your body actually has a physical response to it.
Energetic reaction that we have.
And you actually move away. And so you don't want to have that experience. You want to walk into a room and you're open and your field is welcoming and, is present so that people feel comfortable and are able to move into your field, and it brings their field and their vibration up as well, so that you're increasing the frequency of us vibrating on this planet, because that's what it's about. It's about connecting with others. It's about all of us coming together, regardless of our backgrounds, regardless of our race, regardless of whatever it is, and realizing that we are all essentially equal with each other. We want to bring people up. We don't want to bring them down.
So to add to that, some people might think, okay, I'm going to walk into a room and there's going to be really bad juju and I'm going to walk out. I'm going to get defensive. Why the hell is this person sort of like contaminating my good vibes or whatever? No, I want you to go back to love. I want you to go back to compassion. I want you to go back to kindness. Open your heart and go, actually, I'm incredibly powerful. I am this amazing source of energy and I'm going to sit into compassion as to why that person has been that way. I don't need to know why. I just know that we've all been there. We need to step out of survival and imagine flooding the room with love.
Yeah.
Imagine flooding the room with joy.
Yeah.
This in its own right allows you to activate a global sense of wellness. So now that we're living through this phase of a pandemic and fear and lockdowns and shutting things out and, all sorts of things, we can often go into stress, survival and defensiveness. I want people to take their power back. I want people to expand the idea of what can I bring to the table when humanity needs it the most. I want you to turn yourself, instead of a victim, into a leader.
Yeah.
And you do that by going into your heart.
Yeah.
You do that by being open. As Tracey said, I often discuss this in my clinic with people. You don't need to agree with what someone says. You don't even need to understand it, but you do owe it to yourself and to others to respect it, right?
Yeah, and there's so much that you can learn from other people.
Absolutely.
Like, from all walks of life, anyone that you're meeting in the street, you're meeting in a class, you're interacting with on social media. I mean, there's a lot of fear out there, and I think we have to be careful to some degree of making sure we're not taking on too much of that fear, because that can definitely have an impact on us. But if we're looking at different perspectives, it's really great to just take it as information and see what comes from it as well.
Yeah, which is why it's so important to find something that you like and research about it, because that expands your mind. That allows you to think about something that's not mundane, it's not routine. And by expanding your mind, you're more likely to feel inspired, to feel in awe, to feel motivated. And all of those states really help to increase your frequency.
Yeah, and to not associate yourself with stuff that doesn't really interest you as well. Like find like-minded people out there that are going to encourage your expansion rather than people that are going to kind of, extinguish your light and your energy and your spark. I mean, what's the point of that? I mean, we don't want to be around people that kind of make us feel bad about ourselves. So go out there and find people, or, dip your toe in the water and see what other people and what other ideas are out there.
Dip your toe in the water. Did you guys hear what she just said? Tracey, you're going to come swimming with me.
No,
dip your whole body in the water.
It's 5 degrees. What am I not doing? There's no way.
Yes, dip your toe in the water. Literally, I'm a massive fan of doing that. And we all know that cold water in the back of your neck activates your vagus nerve and makes you feel really vitalized, and it boosts your immune system, which is why I feel so incredibly amazing after each and every swim. But, expand your horizons. So we're going to wrap it up because we're almost out of time, but we really want to motivate everyone that's listening right now. I want you to be a leader. I want you to change the energy of the room that you're walking into. Rise the frequency and the vibration to one of love and openness. Now we need it more than ever. Find something that you like to research or read. Be a geek like Tracey and I.
Get into it. If you want things, just look who I follow on Instagram. I mean, there's so many different ideas and
just jump in the ocean and look at all the little sea slugs.
Get yourself a little sea camera in 5 degrees and go down there and have a little look. I mean, we've got beautiful marine life around Perth over here.
Amazing.
So anyway, we're going to wrap it up. I think this has been a very intense conversation, but I think it's been well worth it for exactly where we're at right now. And so we look forward to talking to you guys next time, but hopefully you've taken something on board here and you're going to go away and have a really good think about what it means to be human.
And be amazing. Raise your frequency, expand your mind. We'll see you next time.
See you later.
The information, views and opinions expressed on this podcast should not be used or treated as a substitute for nutritional, medical, psychological or other advice by a qualified health professional. Hosts and guests on the podcast express their own opinions, experiences and conclusions. Nothing in the podcast should be used to diagnose, treat, cure or prevent any medical condition. The podcast is not intended to replace any medical or mental health treatment. All information and advice provided is for general well-being and does not take individual cases into consideration. Neither Tracey Soltis, Kali Alfaro, or any sponsor endorse the opinions, views or conclusions expressed or shared on the podcast. Tracey Soltis and Kali Alfaro take no responsibility for any symptoms or consequences as a direct or indirect result of the podcast.